tonight or this evening in Israel, we commemorate the Memorial Day of the Holocaust. And I want to share some thoughts with you. It's a little bit off topic, but it will be on topic eventually. But it's, part of documenting is going through real life. And that's what's happening in real life tonight in Israel. And 70 years after, the Holocaust is more complicated to fathom and to draw conclusions from than ever before, because the experience is in the past, in the long-term past. There are not a lot of living survivors around us, and the enormity of the event, it takes you in different places. Some people can learn, like everyone can learn what they want. Some people, they learn about the strength of the human spirit, the fact that Israel needs to be a strong country to make sure that the Holocaust never happens again. So you can basically deduce whatever you want. And the lessons are very interesting and have been said before about the banality of evil, which was actually said by the philosopher, the thinker Hannah Arendt. So there are different ways you can take it, but it always strikes me as interesting, and this reflects and also correlates to everyday life. Not such a magnanimous event, such a tragic and singular event in history, and that is how we can adapt. And that's not a good thing, by the way. How we can adapt to negativity and to negative changes around us if they happen gradually. And that's one of the most alarming things that I think any of us can learn. If something bad happens to us, if our environment changes dramatically overnight, we fight against it. Not only do we fight against it, we find ways to overcome it. We cannot stay indifferent to something that is aggressive, that is sudden, that is acute. And that forces us many times to grow. Like, let's say that you have a dream for many years, you want to have your business and you want to do this or you want to do that, but you're in your comfort zone and you're working your regular job. And suddenly you get fired. Suddenly, the plant that you work in closes and you're thrown out 180 degrees into a different situation. Then that forces you to act, because there is no plan B and there is no adaptation unless you make changes. And many times, and I would dare to say most times, good comes out of this bed. However, the thing with the Holocaust and what happened with the Jews in Europe is that their liberties and their situation eroded gradually. It took time, and they found ways, and unfortunately the human spirit finds ways, and it's unfortunate to adapt to small increments of negative changes, and without revolting against it, without finding or trying to find an automatic other solution, thinking outside the box, and having some sort of a reflex to combat the change, because it's gradual. You lose one thing and then you lose another thing, and before you know it, it's been 3, 4, 5 years and you lost almost everything, and you always think, okay, this is as worse as it's going to get. And that's what happened to the Jews in Europe. If you follow history, it took a long time, relatively. Of course, it's a very short time, but in real life, it took some time between the time that the Nazi party took power in Germany and when the Holocaust actually began as a systematic elimination of and genocide of the Jewish people. Time passed, and during that time, there was the star, the yellow star, and no rights for businesses, and then you move from your house to the ghetto. And every time, as history teaches us, the Jews in Europe, in many countries, thought, okay, we can live with this. It can't get any worse, and it's only a small inconvenience or a small degradation. It's a minor step. And I think that is relevant 70 years later, not in such dramatic fashion, not in such tragic and epic fashion, but think of your life, think of everyone's life, when things are not going your way, but it's in small steps. It's a little thing in your relationship, and a little thing in your work, and a little thing in your cash flow, but it's manageable. You can still make it happen. Okay, you didn't get the raise that you wanted, and your salary is basically eroded by inflation, but you can still somehow, by giving up a few things, make ends meet. And there is no push that shoves you in the direction which you need to be shoved. And 5 years later, you wake up and you didn't even feel it, but serious damage has been done to your situation. And this is something that we need to be aware of, and that's a lesson that we need to learn. And the lesson is very simple. We need to respect the fact that it is human nature in many ways to adapt in a way that allows me to stay in my comfort zone. Think about that in your life, in your business environment, in your professional environment, even in your personal environment. We are able to adapt very easily to small things that threaten our comfort zone in order to stay in it. We are willing to make compromises. Does that sound familiar? So, and that's not a good thing, and we need to accept that. We need to be able to look from the outside and say, okay, this is human nature. I'm not going to be angry with myself for being like that, because our psychology wants us to stay in a comfort zone. Our psychology doesn't like risks and doesn't like the uncertainty of a risk. We are built on this notion of stability. However, if we are aware of this, then we can draw red lines and we can understand that we need sometimes to force the issue. And you know, there's a famous saying that says, if the wind isn't helping, grab the oars. Another famous saying, a good cliche to combat the first cliche, is don't wait until the iron is hot to strike it. Heat up the iron by striking it very hard repeatedly. Take the initiative. Make the changes you need to make to take control of whatever situation you are in to improve it. Remember, facilitate the fact, accept the fact that we are what we are. We can adapt, we can remain in the comfort zone, we can live like this for many years without fulfilling ourselves, without going outside where we want to go and getting what we want to get, because our psychic construction allows us to do this. But that doesn't mean it's a good thing. And we need to take the initiative, we need to be proactive, and we need to say, maybe this is a great lesson to learn. Do not accept small increments of negativity, small increments of difficulty, small increments of evil, I would say. But once you feel that you're going in that direction, take a step as early as possible, because that's when you can really change things and create your own fate. And that's what, unfortunately, the millions of people who perished in the Holocaust did not do. They did not create their own fate. They followed a fate that was designed for them, and it was a tragic fate. And that is a lesson that is not fun for us to learn as Jews, because it lacks heroism. But I think it's very noble, it's very human, that you just sometimes follow the fate that others have laid before you, and you don't even realize the trap that you're walking into. And again, in our lives in 21st century, it's not a lethal trap, it's not a deadly trap, but it's a trap that threatens not our life, but our happiness. And that is as important to many of us as life itself. So, create your own fate.